Hi, I'm here today with another crochet tutorial for our Smartdoll or a similar size doll. It is for this basic little slipper shape here. You just need some double knit yarn, 3mm crochet hook, pair of scissors. I have two needles here, one for sewing on embellishments and one for sewing up my actual yarn, and just a little selection of embellishments, because I will show you mine in a second that are on Mirai, but you could do anything basically, whatever you've got handy. You could have pom-poms, you could have little buttons. I think the bow looks quite cute on there. You could sew on beads, you could do some embroidery, whatever you like. You don't even have to stitch it on. If you don't like doing any stitching, good old glue gun can come out and you can actually attach. The only thing is then you've got the risk of it coming off. I prefer to stitch to make sure my work is solid. Now here she is. Let's turn her around, and here are our little slippers. They are nice and simple, nice and easy, very quick to make. So she could have a few different pairs. So those are the slippers. I'm going to take them off her feet now and pop them in front so you can actually see them. We've got one leg rolled up there, haven't we, just so you could see it better. So I'm going to pop her back down there. She's going to sit and have a watch while I do this. And those are the actual finished slippers. Pop them to one side as well. So I'm going to get this going. It is quite easy. You do have to watch your tension, and depending on your tension you may have to reduce the length at a certain point, which I will tell you when we get to that. I can do this in real time because it is nice and quick. I've just attached a slip knot to our hook, our 3mm hook, remember, and I'm going to do 2 chain just exactly as I do my amigurumi, and into that first chain I'm going to do 6 double crochets, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Those of you who have watched me before know I do remind you we are working in UK terms here, so obviously a double crochet here is a single crochet in the US, or obviously there are different variants as well, but some of those I don't know, so I'm hoping I can give you enough information there. So we have our 6. I count from the back to make sure I know where the first one was. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. In we go, and I'm going to do 2 double crochets into each of those 6, so we're going to have 12 stitches. That's 2, 3. Oh, maybe not. What have I done there? Lost count now. That should have been my 4th, shouldn't it? This should be my 4th now. Look, I've only done 1 stitch in there. So that's 4, 5, remember it's 2 in each one. I'm not doing very well this morning, am I? You'll have to excuse my voice being a little bit croaky as well, because I'm just getting over a cold, as I said in one of my previous videos, but it still left me with a bit of a croaky throat, unfortunately. So I should have 12. Let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So that is all the increase we're going to be doing. We have 12 stitches. And now we're going to do 3 full rounds in double crochet. So if you wish to put a stitch marker you can. I ought to because I talk too much, but let's have a look. So we've got 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. I've got to try not to sniff. 10, 11 and 12. So that's our first round. You can see it's already sort of forming into a little ball. I find it easier if I push it through then and work that way, because otherwise you feel like you're working inside out. So we need 2 more rounds like that. It doesn't sound much, does it? 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, just 2 more, 11 and 12. So basically we're working on the toe of the slipper. Now you could make it shorter. I'm going to do something now. I'm going to take She's very creaky. I've taken her foot off. Didn't want you to see the amputation there, but there's her foot. Now it fits on, as you can see, just sort of over her toes. Now the yarn does stretch, so you do have to watch this, because my first couple I thought, oh, I need to make it up here before I alter it, but it actually ended up too big. So it is actually only 3 rounds, so foot comes off very easy if anyone's worried about taking them off. I've taken it off completely just from the joint, so you can see. It's easy enough to put on and off, you just got to line it up properly. And it's easier than carrying her around. So I've been carrying a foot round in a bag while I've been doing this. Just don't lose them, because obviously getting replacements is not going to be quite that simple. I think we're on 6. I miscounted again. I shouldn't talk. 8, 9, 10, 11, and our last one. So that is basically our toe done. So that's the toe part. We're now going to come up to shape to the sides. So we're going to go from working in rounds to working in rows. So my first one I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 chain. Chain is important there, but it's not a stitch. Then into the base of that chain I'm going to do my first stitch. I need 10, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5, nearly there, 6, 7, 8, 9, and just 1 more. Now those 10, you can't tell now because I've stitched it up, is this bit. It's this flattened off bit here. So that is the 10 we're working in now. Now again, this is where your tension's going to come into account. So I'm going to do so many and then I will measure here, see where it comes to. Don't work all the way to the end, because as I say, it does stretch, and it's surprising if you're just using a bog standard acrylic yarn, there is a lot of stretch to it. It does stretch quite considerably. If you're using a cotton, which I did make some slippers in, some little lilac ones, and the yarn was beautiful, but they still stretch, but not as much. You'll find cotton won't give as much. So we need to turn now. So we've just done 10 double crochets. I'm going to do a chain at the end of that, then I'm going to turn it over. You'll see me do that a couple of times if you're not sure. I'm going into, if you line that up, can you see where the base of that stitch is? I'm going to try and do it up so you can see without it just in there. I want to go in there. There we go. And I'll do 10 stitches. That's counted as your first one now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You need to squidge it round sometimes for that. 7, 8, 9, and we're just going to do one more for our 10th. So that's your 10 stitches. So that is your first row after doing that. It's always handy to maybe have a piece of scrap paper, so I'm going to write that down. So I've actually got 2, haven't I? I did the first one and then that one. So I'm going to do 1 chain again. I'm going to turn my work over. I'm going to grab this needle actually to make it more obvious. So this is the chain. We're not going to jump to this stitch because this does not count as a stitch. I'm going to go straight below it here. Not here, just straight below. Okay. In we go. And that's the first of our 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. If you don't do that chain, that 10th stitch is very, very difficult to get into. So I'm just going to put a little mark down there because, as I said, because I'm talking, I'm not really paying that much attention. So there are going to actually be, well, 7 in total, because I've done that first row and then I've said a DC row. So there are actually 7 in total. So we've got 3 already. So it doesn't take much, remember, straight below. Remember, these are all just double crochets. If you do this in a finer yarn, which as I say I did do with my 4-ply cotton, and they do look really delicate, if you do that. I would keep measuring. You've got to keep measuring, and you may need a few more stitches on that toe joint, but just play with it. It comes down to your tension. Everybody's different with crochet. That's why sometimes you can do patterns and sometimes you can't, because you'll make a pattern for a person and then they'll go, but it didn't fit or it didn't work. And that's because we're all very, very individual where crochet is concerned. So you do have to be careful. On average, they usually come out. I've not had any problems with people doing work, but every now and again somebody's tension's either looser or tighter, so they may need to alter either their hook size or the yarn, or maybe just an extra few rows less. Sometimes that's enough to adjust it. That is what would adjust it in this situation. I'm pretty sure you would still need the toe point, no matter what your tension's like, but this is the bit here that we're working on that you may have to do less. As I say, I'm saying 7, you may have to do 6 or 5, or if you're very tight you might have to throw an extra row in there. That is why it's handy to have the foot there. I wouldn't just make them without, so you can keep checking on your measuring, because we're now on number 6, so we're going to have a quick look on how the measuring is working here. I'll just take my hook out, make sure that's not going to come out, and I can slide her foot in. See? Now, well, it's about right where we are, because I need a little bit of shaping for it to come up in a second or two. We're going to just do a couple of increase rows, but you can see we've got a nice little square point. This is one I did earlier, and can you see how it's actually a longer one there? But I decided I didn't like that. That's why I've knocked this down to 3 now. But you could take it higher if you wanted to. That doesn't really matter. So we've got one more row before we start to increase. It's only a little increase. It's easy enough. We're just adding on a couple of stitches there. Just doubling checking what I've got with my quantity. That's okay. 1 chain then. And we have, or maybe we don't have, our last just double crochet row. Remember, I'm referring to rows now because I'm just going backwards and forwards rather than round and round. I do get that wrong though sometimes. I do keep saying I'm doing rounds when I'm not. So we're going to say that is our quantity before we start an increase. Now the increase is really simple. You're going to do 1 chain, as I said before, and turn the work again. You're still going to do that double crochet directly below, but in the next one along we're going to do 2 double crochets. That's your increase, 2 double crochets in 1 stitch. We're then going to continue with our double crochets across until we get to the last 2. When you get to the last 2, you need to stop a second, because I'm going to pop another increase in there. Let's have a look. Are we there? Yep, so that's 1 and that's 2. I'm not increasing on that last one because I think it looks messy if you do. So we're going to do 2 double crochets into the next to the last one, and then we do our last one. We do a chain and we turn. We're now going to have just a double crochet row just to balance it out. So remember, underneath. So now we've got 12 stitches because we've increased just twice on that 10. It just starts to shape up towards the back of the foot rather than it being flat round. You can get away with just doing it flat round, but you'll just have a slightly lower back on the slipper. 2 more. And our next row is going to be an increase. So 1 chain and turn, just in straight away into that one below. The second one is where we do the increase, and we're going to do the same as we did before, just 2 double crochets. We're then going to double crochet across until we get to our last 2 again. And exactly as I did before, in the next to the last one, you're going to have 2 double crochets into it as your increase, and then the last one will just be a double crochet. So here we are, this is the next to last one, 2 double crochets and 1 double crochet in the end. Now you can see we're getting a slope up now. Now I'm going to double check because my green ones were done in a slightly different yarn, so I need to make sure, let me take that hook out, that I'm not going to be too big here. Can you see? I'm almost there. You don't want to come all the way around though, so I'm going to have 1 more row and I'm going to make it an increase row. So this is the last row. That's how quick it is. So I can't remember if I did a chain. Directly below, and then in the second one along, 2 double crochets. And then just double crochet in 1 double crochet into each stitch until we get to our last 2. So now we should have, what have we got? We've got 14, we've got 16 stitches now, haven't we? Nearly there. Is that the last 2? I would say it is. So 2 in that one and 1 in our last one. And that's it. I'm going to trim that off. Fasten it in. Now I have gone round the edge of these slippers as well, but I'll deal with that in a second. I just wanted to show you basically what we're doing. I want to try and sew in all these ends, so we're going to get rid of the toe one because that gets it in my way. There we go. So I'm just going to turn it inside out, that toe, and just thread the yarn through a few times, making sure it's nice and secure. Again, this can come down to the different yarns as well. These acrylics, because they've got little tiny hairs on them, they do actually sort of stick to each other, so they don't have a tendency to undo. If you're using a cotton or something though, they might do. So we're inside out at the moment, so while we're at it, we're going to use this to sew in the end. If we'll go through the needle. There we go. Okay, so now we've got the end, and all I'm doing is I'm just going to do a bit of over sewing. Simple as that, just basic over sewing. Now sew it like whether you like sewing or not. Unfortunately this bit can't be glued, so you do have to sew it, but how simple's that? I think it's a whip stitch, some people call it. I've always been brought up to know it as just over stitching. Right, and I'm just going to slide it up and trim it off. Let's check it actually fits. That's the thing. So turn it back round the right way and let's see if this foot slides in. Oh, look at that, perfectly. Oh, and you see? Don't worry if it is a little bit tight because it will loosen as we go along. Now what I want to do next, apart from drop my wool, so bear with me while I grab it. There we go. We need to go around the top to actually edge. You could get away with that. I don't think that's bad. I think it's quite neat. But again, if we want to avoid any going looseness around this edge, it is quite important. So all I'm going to do is I've got this slipper. I have some more yarn. I'm going to pop it in approximately somewhere at the back. Get the new yarn and just pull it through and do a chain. Now in that stitch below, exactly the one we've just pulled the yarn through, I'm going to do a double crochet. So it's anchored now, that's going nowhere. And then into the top, now it looks a bit weird because it's sideways, but you can see the holes. They are all there. We're going to just crochet around, picking up the stitches. Not forgetting to have turned the slipper back round. It makes a very slight difference, not a huge one, but it would make a little bit of a difference. So I'm just picking up all these stitches around just to make it a little bit neater on the top and also makes the slipper a little bit firmer. Now if you wanted to, you could play around with this and it would take a bit of increasing around the front bit, but you could just continue up with this and almost make like a little slipper boot. That is one that I do want to do. That's what I'm aiming to do for myself. Because as you know, as much as I do these videos, and I hope you enjoy them, and I hope that, you know, it means your smart dolls can have some new bits and bobs. Because I do know what it's like also not to have the money to buy these things. So, you know, it's good if you can sort of bit of scrap yarn, you're a good crafter or not, or a beginner crafter or whatever, or you've got somebody else who can craft for you, then at least you get some nice items for your dolls as well. But I do actually sell items, so I might do a basic version on here, but then I will sort of do it slightly different if people do want to purchase them, or if people wanted to purchase these, you know, anything I do make, you can always give me a shout if you want them. They usually come in really cheap, the slippers, so it's not an issue. So we've got two ends now. Those two ends need sewing in. Let's just double check and I'll show you how it tightens it up a little bit. Can you see how it's sort of just pulled it in a little bit more round? Looks like a neater edge. It gives it a neater edge, that's all. Now, I'm not going to go any further with that. I'll just show you, we could put a pink pom-pom on, and I think that's a bit intense, that one there. I quite like the bow. I don't know about purple. Let's have a look, there's a cream one there. I quite like that one. I think she might have bows on this one, because Shitozi will be having the other pair. Oh, we could put some little buttons on. On my lilac ones, I did sew little pearl buttons on, and little pearl beads, should I say, and they look really, really pretty. Or you could pop on a little flower embellishment, and then maybe a button in the middle. That looks quite cute, actually. I quite like that one. So there's lots of things you can do. So all I have to do now is just, as before, stitch these little ends in, and you end up with the basic slipper that we have. And there we go. We'll pop her slippers back on. That's one foot. I think we need to pop her foot back on as well. I panicked earlier because I couldn't find her foot because I'd left it to one side. Right, come on Mirai, let's show us these lovely feet of yours. Let's get these slippers on. Watch for the yarn as well. Make sure you've not got anything. I've just reminded me actually, because if you have a look, can you see she's got a line here? These are from a Danny Choo shoes that have actually done that. It happens, they rub. It does come off quite easy though, so there are different ways of doing that, and there's a few YouTube videos out there on stain removal as well, so don't panic if that happens, but do watch with your yarn. I personally haven't had any problems at all, but some yarns, especially the darker ones, do stain. So please be careful what you're using, or if you want to pre-wash them first. There we go, she's got her feet there. But I'm quite pleased with them. I hope you are. I hope to see some slippers out there, perhaps on some of the Smartdoll pages. Just tag me in if you do, because I do love seeing what other people have made. Or if you've got any queries regarding this video, or if there's, I don't know, anything you've noticed I did wrong or something like that, please give me a shout and hopefully I can help you out. Remember my new subscribe button down here? There we go. I wonder if I can do it with a crochet hook. I've been trying to find out a way of pointing to it. Where's my crochet hook? Hey, it's because I don't know where my camera is. Because I'm looking from the top. It's down that way. It's there somewhere anyway. So please like, subscribe and share. I am trying to build up the YouTube channel a little bit, and hopefully I will be doing some more things for you. I think a Smartdoll bag's my next one on the list, but there was so many other things I'm thinking of. So hope to see you all soon. Hope you enjoyed this. Please pop some comments on there. Thank you. Bye.